Hello everybody and welcome to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to do another writing check. So we start as always by reading the question, rereading the question, trying to understand what we need to do. Excuse me. In many countries, not all countries, but in many countries, people are now, suggests it wasn't always like this, people are now living longer than ever before. Some people say an aging, spelt with an E, both aging with an E and without an E is fine. But okay. Some people say some people say that an aging population creates problems for the government. So there's one group of people that says that an aging population where more and more older people exist, creates problems for governments. Other people think there are benefits if society has more elderly people. So, in short, people are living to a longer age, and this means that the percentage of the population in many countries now, a higher percentage of the population is older people, let's say people above 65. So, there's a group of people that say, oh, it's bad for governments. If you have an aging population, it's bad for governments. But there's another group of people that says, actually, it's really good for society if we have more elderly people. And the question is not discuss both sides here, but the question is to what extent do the advantages of having an aging population outweigh the disadvantages? So you can approach this with 4 paragraphs. For this one, it's just the one that I prefer, maybe 6 paragraphs for, but okay, 4 paragraphs is fine. Introduction with some reference, some background information about this theme, which is people living longer, some reference to the question, the debate, or the controversy, which, there's a disagreement over whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. And also, in the introduction, I want to see if the candidate thinks that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, or if the disadvantages outweigh the advantages. I'd like to see that in the introduction. I don't need to know why in the introduction, but I would like to see your position in the introduction. Then you have body paragraph 1, talk about advantages, body paragraph 2, talk about the disadvantages. Now, with advantages and disadvantages, I always think it's good to have 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages. And I think this is probably the most sophisticated question type, where I think if you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, you should also do some debunking, like explaining why these disadvantages aren't really that special, but these advantages are good. Similarly, if you believe that there are more disadvantages, then you show strong language about the disadvantages, and with the advantages, you just, it's a small advantage, it's a minor advantage. So it is, I think, the most difficult IELTS essay question type, but okay, nothing to worry about for sure. Of course, in the conclusion, maybe we get a very brief summary of the ideas, and some type of reflective comment. I've mentioned this word reflective comment many times. I hope we know what a reflective comment is. Some type of personal view, could be some advice. So governments should think carefully about, blah, 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 blah. But okay, let's see what... This is a writing check. This isn't a masterclass or a workshop or an explanation of how to write. So I'm not giving a lot of details. Anyway, let's see what the candidate says. To many countries, improving the life expectancy of their populations is among their highest priorities. Okay, slightly off topic, but okay, good language, but I don't know if it's really on topic, but it could be considered background information. Although some people might think nice, that having too many old people is a liability, others might say that it is a symbol of and a key to, I love this stuff, a symbol of and a key to, I really like that type of cohesion, prosperity. Full stop. Okay, good. We have a reference to the question. I don't need this myself. I'm leaning more towards, this feels a little bit informal. I'm leaning more towards, be decisive. So yeah, it's just a little bit informal. It's not a huge problem, and it's nice language. It's just a little bit informal. I'm leaning more toward the latter opinion. So it's a key to prosperity is the candidate's position, because prolonged life to me, again, we don't need that in an academic essay. Myself, to me, can benefit the most important side of human civilization. I don't know about side. Does human civilization have sides? I don't know. It's a little bit odd. Comma, which is the extension of the age of productivity. Okay, fine. But there's a bit of a, the candidate has justified their opinion here. And I don't think you need to justify your opinion in the introduction. You can justify your opinion in the body paragraphs, but overall, a strong introduction. Very accurate in terms of language, a variety of structures, and the introduction does its job to let the reader know what this is about and what the candidate's position is. So overall, a very strong start to this essay. Body paragraph 1. To understand the minds of those who believe that having an aging population is an issue, comma, we would probably have to see, again, we would probably have to see it. It's just a bit informal. It's not academic. It's a bit wordy. We would probably have to see it from the lens, see it through the lens. You don't see from a lens, you see through a lens. You'd probably have to see it through the lens of those who work in elderly healthcare facilities. I really don't like that as a topic sentence. I'm sorry. To understand the minds of those who believe that having an aging population is an issue. So if we want to understand why some people believe it's problematic, we have to think of it from the perspective of people who work with old people. Okay, having to deal with a group of people with physical and mental health conditions is definitely a struggle. Okay, a little bit informal, definitely. Okay, definitely a struggle is fine. I changed my mind. These people, comma, who have problems walking, comma, a little bit of a strange non-defining relative clause there. These people who have problems walking, I don't know why that's in there, would always, don't know if would is really, will always need or always need. Always need someone else's assistance to even do, the split infinitive here, okay, it's okay. To even do normal daily activities, full stop. It is as hard or even harder. Again, it's good, it's really nice in speech. That type of language is really nice in speech. It's just a little bit odd for academic. It is as hard or even harder. It's like the candidate has a second thought. But when you're writing, you don't need to have that second thought. With those who have dementia, they must constantly be taught who they really are every single day. No need for a comma here. Therefore, it is completely understandable if, at the government level, some people might consider them a liability without any degree of productivity any longer. Okay, so the government has finally been mentioned, but the task asks us, or the task says that there are a group of people that say it's a problem for governments. The candidate has spent a lot of time talking about why old people is a problem for people who work in elderly healthcare facilities. That is not the government. The government doesn't work in elderly healthcare facilities. For nurses, for care assistants, sure. But you've spent all of this time talking about, seeing things through the lens of people who work in elderly healthcare facilities, and you're not speaking about why it's a problem for the government. Some points you might include is like if countries have free healthcare, and the older we get, the more we need this healthcare, then this can increase costs for the government. The government needs to invest more money in such hospitals or something like this. So you have mentioned at the government level, there's a problem, they're a liability because they're not productive, but, focus on that more. There are lots of people who don't work and they're not productive, so they don't contribute to the economy, but the government still feels like they need to take care of them. But you didn't really discuss those points. You only discussed, it's a struggle. They need to be helped all the time. They can't even walk. They can't do normal daily activities. Some of them even have dementia. But that seems to be a problem for those who work in elderly healthcare facilities. So a bit off topic. On the other hand, in the eyes of others, I guess, in the eyes of others, no longer life means a longer productive age. Not always. Somebody could stop being productive at 65. Two people could stop being productive at 65. One could die at 70. One could die at 110. So longer life doesn't always mean a longer productive age. So just logically there, not quite. Which will be a huge advantage to civilization. Okay, I hope you'll explain why. Someone with an ambitious goal in life, it's not very specific, is it? Someone with an ambitious goal in life would benefit from it because he or she now has, we have would benefit hypothetical language, so stick with the hypothetical would now have. So a little bit of inconsistency there between, describing reality and hypothesizing. Now has more sufficient time. So sufficient is it's a superlative adjective. It's an absolute adjective. It's not gradable. We don't say like less sufficient or more sufficient. It's either sufficient or insufficient. So more sufficient is strange. Now has sufficient time. Okay. Now has sufficient time to achieve the goal. Okay. How is that benefiting society? Additionally, businessmen, only men? Sounds a little bit sexist, sorry. Additionally, businessmen in many industries will also gain from it because I'd want to put a comma there, but okay. Because a more veteran and polished workforce is now available, would now be available. I don't think this point is very well explained. And again, the task asks us to talk about how society would benefit. Society. And you've spoken about how ambitious people would benefit because they would have more time to achieve their ambitions, and also businessmen, not businesswomen, but only businessmen, they would benefit because they would have a veteran, polished workforce. And again, I don't see how being older makes you more polished. I really don't see that logical link. So again, you're slightly off topic here. In body paragraph 1, you didn't really speak much about the government's problem, and in body paragraph 2, you didn't really say much about, or you didn't say anything about how society would benefit. So you're off topic there. In conclusion, good. Well, I can totally understand why, to some people, okay, having elderly people around is quite an issue. It's quite an issue. Sounds a little bit informal. Can be an issue, could be an issue, might be an issue. It could be problematic. I stand with the latter position. Well, there is no latter position anymore. So in the first paragraph, when you used latter, yeah, it was clear what the latter position was. But now we're in the conclusion. There's nothing to refer to with this latter position. It's a bit odd here. But okay, and strongly believe that it poses even more upsides. To pose an upside sounds strange. To pose a question, to pose a problem, but to pose an upside, for me, that sounds like a strange collocation. Then it does drawbacks. Very, very nice language here. Candidate's language, I have to say, is absolutely superb. Yeah, candidate's language is superb. For sure, a little bit informal. For sure, taking care of people whose years of life are numbered to be numbered, wonderful, is obviously a challenge. If properly managed, longer life can do a huge favor. To do someone a favor, to do a favor for somebody, that's very informal language. So candidate knows a lot of natural informal language and is trying to really exploit as much of that language as they can, but it ends up making the piece look not very academic. So I think this one is very easy to mark. Task response, I have to say a 6 for this, because again, I don't feel like you're on topic. You haven't spoken about the government here. You haven't talked about society here, but I am clearly aware of your points. So your points, I am as a target reader informed of your points, but I'm not as a target reader fully informed about how old people are a problem for governments, or how having more old people is good for society. So I'm not informed on those positions. Coherence and cohesion. Yeah, I think we could possibly. I'm going to give 8 for it. Maybe I didn't like that thing with latter. I thought that was a little bit strange. Not many other problems with coherence and cohesion. There were just a couple of odd bits, like who have problems walking. I thought, well, why did you put that in? Or I myself, like, why did you add that? Or to me, why did you add some of those strange, slightly odd things? So, but in general, coherence and cohesion, great. Fantastic paragraphing, logical flow, easy to understand the ideas, and ideas explained very, very well. Lexical resource is also a band 8. So incredible vocab. It's just a lot of it is informal, like to do somebody a favor or to do a favor for somebody, for sure. Also misses the preposition. Should be 4, not 2. Pose and upside sounds a little bit strange. Businessmen instead of business people, or company leaders, or company top management, or something like this. In the eyes of. So, a couple of minor mistakes with vocabulary, mostly to do with formality. You could be punished more for this. It could possibly drop down to 7, because a lot of the language isn't very academic. But I do feel like you have enough lexical resource for an 8. That's just my opinion. Grammatical accuracy also 8. Perfect, apart from, a couple of very, very minor issues with talking about this would always need. It's strange. You're talking about real people in the real situation who have problems walking, and then hypothetically would always need. And then on the other hand, you talk about life would benefit from it because he or she now has in the real life. So you mix up your hypothetical world and the real world a little bit, and that's a grammatical fault that you have there, and that happened a couple of times. But wonderful range of sentences, wonderful range of structures, just the accuracy is just slightly lower than the 9, but certainly enough variety for an 8, at least IMO. So that gives us a score of 7.5. 7.5, it puts you, right in the middle of C1. I think just improve that task response. A couple of things. Make sure that you read the question carefully and understand what you need to do. A good teacher can help you with this, or you yourself can find a strategy to make sure that you're reading that question and understanding that question fully before you attempt these tasks. Making sure that you deal with those key points. In terms of your vocab, stop using so much informal language. Stop adding unnecessary things like to me or I myself or things like this. Grammar, really amazing. Just be careful with that hypothetical world, non-hypothetical world, hypothetical world, real world. So I fully expect the candidate to get, a band 8, maybe 8.5 in the writing. I think maybe just short of. Yeah, I think probably band 8 is what I would expect this candidate to get. I don't think they'll get band 9, and that's okay. Nobody gets a band 9. That's just life. Yeah. I guess I'll leave it there. So I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of this candidate's very strong writing. If you disagree with anything I say, please let me know in the comments. And if you would like me to check your IELTS writing, either task 1 or task 2, or if you would like a practice speaking test with feedback, you can request this on my Telegram channel. A link to my Telegram channel is given below. But for now, have a wonderful day and see you all again very soon. Bye-bye.